Everybody, Georgia Jaguar here, stampingeorgia.com. I'm sure you're a little bit like me that once in a great while you come up with a card that you are so excited that you created, and I have one of those for you today. Maybe you're old enough, like I am, to remember what a flexible flyer is. Well, Stampin' Up! Has this awesome set of framelits and stamp set, a bundle. The Alpine Adventure is the stamp set, and I'm not exactly sure what the framelits are called, but they're similar to that. And there's a sled. And so I made my own flexible flyer. These were the sleds that we played on and pulled ourselves. We got pulled behind the horses, actually, because I grew up on a farm. And then, of course, down what little bit of hills we could find, like maybe an inch. But anyway, this is the card that I did, and I've got a couple of fun things that I want to show you because I used the Blizzard framelit here to emboss. And of course, the buffalo check has been like a huge, everybody, very popular. Everybody has wanted that. But how I created that flexible flyer. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So come on, let's get started. So here is the card again. It's like a card on top of a card, just kind of a fun fold, or I call it a card inside of a card. So for the first step we're going to do is we are going to create the base, which is the basic black, and we're using a piece that is 4 1/4 by 8 1/4, and it's the same size card finish, so we're going to score it at 5 1/2. And so when I fold it, it is the same as my regular cards. Then I'll just go ahead and do my scoring so I can set my Stampin' Trimmer away on the side. And this basic black for the second card, or the small card, is 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. Or excuse me, 8 inches. And so we're going to put that in our trimmer and use the score blade once again, and we're going to score it in half. So since it was 8, oops, just about cut, we want it at 4. So that's our little mini card that goes on top of the card. Then the next step, we're going to just keep creating as we go. This is the real red that's going to go on this bottom flap here, and we're going to emboss that with the Blizzard Thinlit. Yes, we're going to emboss with the Thinlit using the new embossing mats that were new in the annual catalog. And this piece of real red, look at my notes, is 2 1/2 by 4, so that it will just fit on that flap with a little bit of a border all the way around. So what I'm going to do is show you how I build that sandwich. And I'm going to take my Big Shot, and you're going to use your Big Shot platform for embossing. It's got the diagram on the top. And then we need the white mat that comes with the embossing mats. Next up is to put my Thinlit, and of course you know this is normally would be used to cut, and I can use it to cut, but I wouldn't build my sandwich like this. I'm going to lay my paper on top of that, and then your Big Shot embossing mat comes with 2 different mats. There's a thicker one and a thinner one. We are actually going to use the thinner one. I'm going to lay that on top, and then we put a cutting pad over the top and roll it through, and it will have a little bit of pressure resistance just like you normally do with embossing. And then when you take it out, voila, you have an embossed piece. So we'll set that aside. And then I want to give you a tip for doing the buffalo check. Of course, these great big stamps, sometimes people are nervous about them. There is a simple way to use them, and I want to show you that and just give you that tip. I take my ink pad, in this case I'm using the Memento Black, and you don't even need to apply this to your big block, because I'm not going to lift it up and actually stamp with it. I would ink, and this way too I can see that I've gotten the whole thing inked. And so when I'm finished inking it well, I would take my cardstock and lay it down onto the inked stamp, And then I take a piece of scratch paper, and I'm going to hold always with one hand and rub with the other, but I'm going to rub over the entire surface of the stamp to make sure that I don't miss any spots. And then carefully remove your scratch paper, and then carefully lift off your paper, and you will reveal your beautiful stamping. So that is going to go on the back inside of my card. And of course, this time of year, we see a lot of red and black buffalo check. It's very trendy in clothing, but it's also fun to use it in our crafts. So now I have my card base built, and the little card just gets adhered inside. And what I like to do is, you can open it and put it so you can kind of center it. So just open your card up, because you don't want to cover up a lot of your design, and you want it to be nice and straight. So then that will get glued down. And then I'm going to have two pieces, one for the top and one for the inside. I'll go ahead and put the inside one in. And that way, if you wanted to turn this Let It Snow winter card into a birthday card, you could by putting a happy birthday on the inside. It could just be an encouragement card for winter. You can turn this into just about anything. I did use one of the stamps out of the Alpine Adventures, and actually I looked it up when I was setting up to do this part of the video, and it is Alpine Adventures bundle. So now really I have my card done, other than to embellish with my sled. And so what I did was I used the sled thinlet or framelit, whatever you want to call it, and cut out a piece of red from a scrap, and then I cut it again with the wood grain. And really, to save some paper, I didn't need parts that were going to be red, so I just cut those off. I didn't put those under the die, and I'm just going to cut away any excess pieces that I don't need. And then the runners are red metal, so I'm going to cut away the runner part. And the part that we used to steer, this piece right up here, was made out of wood, or at least it was covered with wood. I have one of these actually that I put out in the winter for decoration at Christmas time, so it's kind of fun to make a card with one. And then I would just use a little bit of Tombow liquid glue to hold that in place. And then I want to show you the little trick that I did for the tie, for the rope. I used the linen thread, and I went ahead and just like you do when you're tying a knot at the end of a needle and thread when you're sewing on a button. That's what I did for my first one. And then I just hold it over my sled and kind of pinch between the linen thread between my thumb and index finger. That's where I want the other end knotted. So I just tie another knot, because goodness, we are not going to thread. And then I just check myself before I pull it tight. If I want it to slide it down a little bit, I can. And then I just cut it off. This way too, you won't waste any thread. And then I take my Tombow liquid glue. Oh, I forgot to put my sled on, my wood grain on. Go ahead. And you've probably, if you've used the liquid glue at all, you know a little goes a really long ways. So just be sparing. I didn't realize it until I was all finished that my video actually cut out on me. So I want to show you how I just finished up putting that. So I just used a dot of the Tombow right over, there's an actual little hole, and just put it right over the hole, and then put the knot right over the holes on the sled, so you know right where to put them. And then the sled is adhered to my card with mini dimensionals. They were the perfect size because they get concealed underneath those narrow strips of wood. So there you have it, a really fun flexible flyer card. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you'll give this fun technique a try.